Hi there, my name is Koivumaa. I'm a watercolor artist based in Sweden, and I've been painting watercolors since 2007, and I've been completely obsessed about watercolors since then. I love painting landscape paintings, but I also paint a few urban scenes every once in a while. So these are three of my latest paintings that I've been painting. All of these are painted on ARCHES watercolor paper, 640 grams per square meters, and they're painted on fine grain, and they're a cold press paper. This is a quite typical landscape of mine, with some sunlight in it, and trees, people walking on a path here. So I would say this is quite a typical motif of mine. And here's another one. This is from a forest that I walk in on a daily basis with my dog. So I've been painting many paintings over the years from this location. And this is also quite typical painting of mine, because I do love painting winter landscapes, especially with snow on the ground and maybe some rocks or trees and stuff like that. So these are typical three Koivumaa landscapes, I would say. I'm going to take you guys through some of my most used techniques while I'm painting watercolors. And one of the most important techniques is being able to control the consistency of the pigments. So like here, for example, all the dark trees here on the sides, they're extremely dark, and that is thanks to a lot of pigment. So if you have a pigment that is very thick, then it's easier to get these darker values. And the reward is contrasts in light and dark, which I think is quite important for a beautiful painting. And another technique that I use quite often is painting wet in wet, and especially for the sky. So I painted the sky first in this painting, and I did that by wetting the paper, letting the water sink a little bit, and then I added the pigment. And in that way, we will get this smooth effect of pigments mingling with each other on the surface of the paper and kind of creating a magic in front of you. And the last technique that I want to mention is using intentional backgrounds. This is a good example of that, where I'm creating texture on the surface of the paper, wherever I want it. And a great way of doing that is sprinkling with a spray bottle with some water on the paint that is drying. When I'm painting watercolors, I use both this heavier paper, 640 grams per square meters, and these are loose sheets. And what I like about that is that the paper doesn't buckle very much. And they're quite easy to hang without a frame as well, so that's one benefit with painting on this heavier paper. But having said that, I still paint on other kind of ARCHES papers as well. For example, every once in a while I use the travel journal from ARCHES, and this is perfect for doing small studies, for example, if you're painting outdoors, or if I'm doing small studies in the studio, like in some of my digital workshops, for example. But I do paint on these watercolor blocks as well, and since the sides are glued, that's perfect for painting if you don't want the paper to buckle. So it's a pretty practical way of painting watercolors, I think. So I use a mix of watercolor papers when it comes to ARCHES. Loose sheets on heavy paper, travel journal, or painting on blocks. Back in 2007, when I started with watercolor for the first time, the first paper that I used was actually paper from ARCHES. And I didn't know it then, because that's the only paper I knew about. But over the years, when I've been trying other papers just for fun, I realized that ARCHES paper is the best paper for me. I think it has the best quality, and it's the most durable paper. And I really like the consistency, because it never disappoints me. So if I would summarize ARCHES watercolor paper in one word, I would probably say